Hello. Today we will be covering one of the 14 required Supreme Court cases that you must memorize for the AP U.S. government course. This video will go over everything you need to know about the Supreme Court case Marbury v. Madison and its legacy of judicial review. So, without further ado, let's get started. To understand the Marbury v. Madison court case, we first need to understand the events that led to its occurrence. In the election of 1800, Federalist President John Adams lost to Democratic Republican candidate Thomas Jefferson. Now, this was the first time in the nation's history that a presidency shifted between two political parties. And even though it was a peaceful transfer of power, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans did not like each other. So, John Adams was obviously frustrated with simply handing the White House over to a Democratic Republican. As a result, he and the Federalist controlled Congress attempted to enact measures that would dilute Democratic Republican power in the central government prior to Adams leaving office. The Federalist-controlled Congress passed the Judiciary Act of 1801, which created several new federal judgeships. This gave Adams the opportunity to appoint new Federalist judges to the judiciary, which he took. During his final days in office, he quickly appointed new Federalist judges to these openings and signed their commissions. These appointments became known as the Midnight Judges. One of these appointees was William Marbury, who was selected to serve as a Justice of the Peace. Although Adams signed Marbury's commission, it was never delivered to him before Jefferson took office. And this was important because a commission basically serves as proof that Marbury was actually appointed. So Jefferson instructed his new Secretary of State, James Madison, not to deliver the commission, preventing Marbury from officially assuming the position. Now, Marbury was obviously upset and believed he was legally entitled to the position. So he sued Madison and requested the Supreme Court to issue a writ of mandamus, which is a court order requiring a government official to perform a legal duty. In this case, Marbury wanted the court to order James Madison to deliver his commission. The Supreme Court now faced three important legal questions with the Marbury v. Madison case. First, did William Marbury have a legal right to his commission? Second, if Marbury's legal right had been violated, did the law provide a remedy? Finally, could the Supreme Court issue a writ of mandamus ordering James Madison to deliver the commission? The court answered yes to the first two questions. However, the third question was met with a no and proved much more complicated because it involved the Constitution itself. In order to answer the third question, the Supreme Court had to interpret Article 3 of the Constitution. Article 3 establishes the judicial branch of government and defines the Supreme Court's jurisdiction over court cases. There are two distinct types of jurisdiction mentioned in Article 3. Original jurisdiction is the authority of the Supreme Court to hear a case first, before any other court. Article 3 limits the types of cases that are classified under original jurisdiction to very specific scenarios, such as a dispute between states. The second type of jurisdiction is appellate jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdiction allows the Supreme Court to review the decisions of lower federal courts through appeals. Most cases reach the Supreme Court through appellate jurisdiction. Now, the issue at hand was whether Congress could expand the Supreme Court's original jurisdiction beyond what Article 3 specifically stated, because issuing a writ of mandamus would be an expansion of the court's jurisdiction. Okay, backtracking a bit in time. Before the Judiciary Act of 1801, Congress passed the Judiciary Act of 1789. Section 13 of this legislation appeared to give the Supreme Court the power to issue writs of mandamus under its original jurisdiction. However, Chief Justice John Marshall ruled that the Supreme Court had no authority to issue writs of mandamus because doing so would exceed its original jurisdiction defined in the Constitution. So, Congress cannot simply expand the court's power through legislation. Marshall explained that when a law conflicts with the Constitution must always prevail because it is the supreme law of the land. As a result, the court declared Section 13 of the Judiciary Act of 1789 unconstitutional. The Supreme Court could not issue the writ of mandamus, and Marbury never received his commission. Now, this is perhaps the most important part of this Supreme Court case. By declaring Section 13 of the Judiciary Act of 1789 unconstitutional, the Supreme Court established the principle of judicial review. Judicial review is the power of U.S. courts, in this case, the Supreme Court, to review laws and government actions and declare them unconstitutional if they violate or conflict with the Constitution. This decision strengthened the judicial branch by reaffirming its role in interpreting the Constitution and added another layer to the system of checks and balances between the three branches of government. Even today, judicial review remains one of the Supreme Court's most important powers. Also, here's an AP exam tip. It's important to remember that judicial review is not an explicit power listed in the Constitution. It was established through the Marbury v. Madison court case, so don't get it confused. Lastly, if you're ever on a time crunch, here's a quick review sheet that summarizes all the main points and vocabulary you need to know regarding the Marbury v. Madison case. Thanks for watching and follow for more AP content if you enjoyed.